Hey, what's up guys? In this video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of joining the United States Coast Guard, either as a non-rate or going straight into A school to become a petty officer. So we'll start off with the pros. Oh, by the way, this is my friend Hauk. Great guy. I've been knowing him for probably about good 9 to 11 months. And he has a lot of advice. He's been through the whole journey as a non-rate, so we'll kind of share our thoughts here. So I guess to hit it off, let's start off with some pros.
I would say the biggest pro being a non-rate is that you get to shadow all the ratings. Not all the ratings, but a lot of the ratings that they offer in the Coast Guard. There's certain ones where it's like musician or IS. What is that? Intelligence specialist? Intelligence specialist. Aviation survivalist technician. Those are harder to shadow depending on where you are, but the biggest perk for me was just getting a better idea of what these people do, which is why I didn't go the straight to A school route, but I kind of regret that. But we can get into that later. So that's one of the big pros for me. What about for you?
Well, just take one step back. Basically, in case like you're kind of new to the whole Coast Guard thing, being a non-rate would mean that you basically are going to go into the fleet and you're going to be able to shadow all these different rates and be able to figure out or to help you kind of narrow down what you really want to do within the Coast Guard. A big pro for me, I would say, is if you join in as a non-rate, you would be able to really look deep into the different rates and really figure out if it's something you really want to do, just because there's a lot of surprises that come into different rates. For example, you might want to go SK, which is storekeeper, and you're going to think maybe you're in a land unit, but next thing you know, you're in a ship and you're doing like accounting work. And you never thought like, oh my gosh, I'm doing accounting work as an SK. So it's a good opportunity for you to just be able to really be right next to someone, really be able to work with them and figure out like, is this really what I want to be doing? So yeah.
I would say another pro is if you do go to a cutter, a large boat, you'll get to see more of the world. You know, we got to go down south and we got to see Mexico. We went to Guatemala. We went all around Central America. So it was a cool experience, no question. But there are a lot of cons. Are there any other pros that you can think of that are worth mentioning?
I guess the good thing, I would say, so if you are in a cutter as a non-rate, I'm not sure how it is in a land unit as a non-rate, but if you go to a cutter or any boat, you really build some strong friendships there. Especially like with everybody, with your chiefs, the officers, and you really, I guess sometimes you are really appreciated, and there's times where you really feel like you're part and you're contributing in some way. And even though a lot of people kind of look down on non-rates, we actually do a lot of work. You guys will be doing a lot of work as a non-rate. So I think that's a good pro of like going in the fleet as a non-rate. You kind of get a lot of respect for that in a way. Sometimes.
Yeah, most definitely. That is there is kind of a division within the enlisted Coast Guard members, which is like those that had to be a non-rate for a little while and those that just went straight to, they're called boot to A's, boot camp to A school. There's a bit of a division because it's like, oh, you didn't really like earn your stripes because you didn't have to do like the hard work that we did as non-rates.
Is it a lot of work?
As a non-rate, yeah. Depending on where you go, sometimes you can go to a station, your life can be cake. Other times, like Guardado and myself, we went to a 210 cutter, which is like a 60-year-old boat. And yeah, no, it's not easy because the boat's older. It needs a lot of attention, a lot of maintenance. And we as deckies, as seamen, there's seamen and firemen for non-rates. We as the seamen had to treat all of the rust on the boat, and sometimes it wasn't, you know, it's not very pleasant work, and it's not very, you don't get a lot of recognition for the hard work that you're putting in sometimes.
I guess this takes us into the cons of being a non-rate, and I guess I'll take it out here. It'll be, if if you go in as a non-rate and you are going to be stationed in a cutter, you are going to be doing a lot of rust busting. You are going to be working with approximately like 11 other non-rates, and you guys are going to have to work together. And basically what that can look like a typical day ashore, basically you guys would go in and you guys can be working like on the front of the boat, and it can have like some rust maybe like on one of the edges or somewhere near the front. And basically you guys will spend like that week basically grinding it out, sanding it, and basically painting it and making it look good. Basically you're keeping up with all the maintenance and all the rust so you guys can get ready to get underway at some point. So it kind of gets difficult because you're dealing like with just rust all the time. You know, sometimes you're breathing it in, and sometimes it's a lot of stuff you have to wear, and just to do that little job, and it can be complicated.
Yeah,
it can be very complicated.
We basically, as non-rates, get stuck with a lot of the grunt work. Not always. There's plenty of people that are pulling their weight and more on the boat who are well above us in rank, but definitely, you know, if there's like, say we like pull into a port and somebody has to like drive the GV to the security gate and back, that's going to fall on the non-rate to do. So, and like, you know, with mess cooking as well, mess cooking is when you are basically the dishwasher for the boat. You serve the food, you're cleaning the galley, not the galley, but the mess deck. We had to do that for 2 weeks at a time. It's just not pleasant work. You have to clean nasty things like the grease trap. You have to take out the garbage, and it doesn't sound that bad, but it ends up being pretty rough at times. So there's just a lot of menial labor that falls on the non-rates, unfortunately.
Another thing too about being an on-rate is when you are living on the vessel underway, you're going to be living what's called the non-rate berthing.
Yeah.
And basically you're sharing it with the firemen and the deckies, and basically we're kind of like that's your people that want to go like engineering routes, and they kind of like want to get to know the firemen stuff, which is like getting to know the diesel engines, and basically they just work underneath and the deckies kind of work on top, but you guys still live in the non-rate berthing together, and it can get a bit chaotic, and sometimes it can be hard, especially if you're an older folk. You're going to be with a lot of youngsters. Your trash cans are probably going to be like towers high.
Yeah,
and
people don't like to take out the garbage.
And screaming like at 3 a.m, just like or video games.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard. The living situation on the cutter as a non-rate can be nasty. I think you're sharing 2 toilets and 1 urinal, and I think what else? 3 showers. You have 3 showers. Yeah. And it's just you're also sharing it with a whole nother berthing of second class.
Yeah.
So that's on top of that.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. If you're older, like Guardado and I are, I'm 30 years old, so I'm way too old to be a non-rate. So it made the experience that much harder. I couldn't really like match the energy of the 18-year-old kids. They're just so hyper and wired, and it was hard to fall asleep sometimes because they're just, you know, up causing absolute chaos in the berthing.
Sorry to cut you off, but I will say, like, if you are young and you're looking for that thrill and excitement, it's perfect for you because everyone around that age is, you know, on the same beat as you. You guys are kind of like making things work, and it becomes fun. It's kind of fun. It's just if you're a little bit older, it just gets a little bit like annoying, or it can be like, oh my gosh, let me sleep, I have watch, or stuff like that.
Yeah, you do not, privacy does not exist on a boat when you're underway. So that's something to keep in mind. But absolutely, if you're 18 years old, I think you can totally deal with all the things we've brought up, all the cons. It is a worthwhile experience if you're young and you haven't worked, or, you know, if you haven't worked a lot of jobs in your life. It is kind of a necessary thing to experience. But for somebody, you know, my age, it was just like looking back on it, I was like, did I really need that experience before going to A school? And you know, I don't think I did necessarily. So
what would you say is like the age gap. I mean, not the age gap, like just the age limit that it should be probably like if someone's considering and they have like kids or like they're getting to a certain age.
Yeah.
What age number would you say like, hey, consider going to A school straight out of boot camp?
I say 25, and that's kind of an arbitrary number because obviously you're going to have instances where 25-year-olds fit in great as a non-rate. They love their life. It's working out fine. But just as a rule of thumb, I think anything over 25, you've probably had enough experience working as a dishwasher, working as a busboy, whatever it was, that you did. I'm sure you got that experience. You've worked the hard jobs. You don't need that anymore, so you can just jump right into A school, like become rated. Don't do the non-rate life. You don't need it. Maybe like anything older than 25.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree with him. If you go in, like let's say as a 26 or 27, you got to consider too that it's going to take you about a good year. It could take up to a year depending on what rate you want to go to actually leave that boat. So if you go in as a non-rate, you might have to like stay lots of time. You have to wait about four months to even put your name on the list, and that's if you don't get in trouble with your command, and that's if you're like qualified. Then they grant you permission to put your name on the list, and now you can put your name on another wait list. So basically you're waiting, then you're waiting on another list.
Yeah.
So if the rate isn't critical, so if the job isn't critical, then you're not leaving the vessel anytime soon, which means you would keep going on patrols. So if you're going in like, let's say 26 or 24, by the time you actually get rated, you'll be around like 25. Because, for example, for us, it's been around like 9 months, and we're barely now getting ready to get rated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind too is the finances. You should be aware that very likely you're going to have to live in barracks, or you're going to get government house leasing, which means that you're going to room with somebody on your boat, or maybe somebody from another boat, and you're not going to, your paycheck is going to be pretty lousy starting out as an E3 or an E2, and you're not going to get BAH or BAS, and BAH is, both those things are allowances for housing and for food that you get once you become a rated petty officer. And regardless of whether or not you actually rent a place, say you want to live in your van, you'll still get that allowance. You still get, if I'm in Seattle and I'm at E4, I'll get $2,100 every single month for my rent. And I'll get $460 for food every month. That's something you get if you become rated. If you're an E3, an E2, meaning a non-rate, you just don't get that. And so it's going to be tough.
And that's a huge thing though to consider, like especially if you're coming in at a older age, and your finances are like, for instance, if you are working at a job now and you're making, let's say, $3,000, well, as soon as you join, and if you're going in as a non-rate, you're gonna make probably, I would say, like $2,000 to $2,100 a month. Mm-hmm. So you have to really consider, like, could I take that loss or not? And if you can't, that's why it's very important to know if you want to just go the boot to A route, because then you can just go to boot camp, struggle those 2 months in boot camp, get out, and then you go to your A school. But as soon as you graduate as a petty officer and you get your rate, you're going to start getting BAH, which is like, it's a big plus for your finances, as far as like you were making $2,100 and now you're making like $4,200.
Yeah. And
you can pocket a lot of money that way.
I would really stress too, especially with like these critical ratings that exist, and they've always existed. There's always like with culinary specialists, they always have a need for more culinary specialists. And there's really big bonuses, especially now, that may not exist in the next year or two. Yeah. So this is something to absolutely take advantage of if you're interested in any one of these critical ratings. So you definitely need to seize the moment with either the ET, the OS, CS, I believe. Is DC still a critical rating?
Damage control, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
what would people do, like if they did want to join what would you say, like, how should they go about, like, they want to go to critical rating or get a bonus? Like, do they just talk to the recruiter, you think? That should be the first thing.
Talk to your recruiter, but do not, recruiters are kind of like hit and miss. Like, some of them are great and some of them are absolutely terrible. And there's been horror stories of people not getting their bonuses or having to wait months and months to get their bonus money because the recruiter screwed something up. They didn't do the paperwork necessary to get them the bonus. So talk to your recruiter. If you don't feel like your recruiter is doing their job properly, you can find another recruiter. You can call sectors, you can call different units around the US, different Coast Guard units, and just speak to speak to a recruiter or speak to somebody that actually is in the Coast Guard, like an OS or an ET, to get more information, just to make sure that you're like making the right choice, you're making an informed choice.
And of course, they're probably gonna like, they're either gonna give you the option like, hey, you don't know where you want to go, you should go the non-rate route. But just be very careful, like I said, do your research, try to figure things out, because they are gonna give you that option. But if you take it, again, you're gonna be waiting around a long time. So just make sure that once you talk to a recruiter, and if you are considering like maybe taking a bonus or something like that, like ask them about it. Like I think for us, our recruiters didn't really stress, at least my recruiter didn't stress so much about a bonus, and I just kind of went into it kind of like last minute non-rate. And look at me now, 9 months later, and I could have went about it a different route.
Yeah.
So
I definitely I definitely am regretting the fact that I didn't go straight to A school, because there was a once in a lifetime 65K bonus with the ET rating, electronics technician, that I could have gotten, and it was just a huge mistake on my part. So I don't know. I think this really depends on your age and what you know you want to do. I would just say, if you're young, you can afford to lose a couple years as a non-rate, get some good experience. You'll know kind of like what our missions are, how they work. You'll get qualified in certain things. So if you have to come back to a cutter, or if you have to go back to that unit, you're already going to be familiarized and like qualified. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think if you are like 22 or even 18 or whatever age you are, if you are like kind of debating like, hey, should I join the service, should I not? Whenever you make up the decision, if you do decide to join the Coast Guard, just make sure that you really take into consideration that there is a lot of bonuses going on right now, but just be wise in what rate you choose. Sometimes that can either make or break you, and yeah, just take some time to really look into the non-rate experience and then the rated experience. And like Hauck said, if you're older, you should probably lean towards the rated. Become a petty officer right away, and if you're not, get some experience and just see what drives you the most.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say you can get a lot of answers from places like Reddit, and just speaking on the phone with actual whoever they are, whatever rating you're looking at. I promise you can find somebody to talk to who is in that rating, who's got years of experience. They will tell you the worst parts about it and the best parts about it. So don't be afraid to kind of get aggressive in seeking information before you make that choice. And also, like, I would just bother your recruiter as much as possible with, like, how could I become an officer if I want to become an officer? That's a great route to take in the Coast Guard if you want to. Another thing is too, you can also just pick a rating based on the bonus if you're doing 4 years. That's not bad to do. You can absolutely, maybe like I'm doing OS, I honestly I had no goal of becoming an OS in my life, not at all. But OS I'm going to a land unit after I graduate A school, and I'm going to have half the month to go to school. I can actually go to school, and my school is going to be paid for with tuition assistance, which is what the Coast Guard offers. So I'm doing it strictly for the bonus and so that I can go to school. And I'm hoping to just do 4 years and get out. So don't be afraid to to do that if that's what you want to do. People say choose your rate, choose your fate, and it's like, well, if you're going to do the 20 years, absolutely think really hard about what you're going to do for the next 20 years. But if it's 4 years, you can probably get through the 4 years.
Yeah. And a lot of people might judge you like, oh, you're just doing it for the bonus and stuff like that. Who cares? Honestly, no one cares. If you just need some money, choose a rate for the bonus, get your bonus, get some school out of the way, and get out. You be a veteran. But also, there's just so many benefits. But that would go on into a whole another chapter. But
Sure.
Overall, I would say just do your research and decide wisely. Non-rate or go to the rated rep. And yeah.
If you're 30, don't be a non-rate. Please.
Yeah. Anything over 25, just get rated. Trust me.
Yeah.
Don't be like us. All right. Peace.